And picture this. Crumbling stone walls stacked in defiance of logic, towers tilting at odd angles, and design choices so baffling, you wonder if the builders were working from a sketch or a dare. The myth that all castles are beautiful crumbles fast when you meet these architectural missteps. From a 19th century French chateau turned Gothic fantasy to a Belgian castle with a concrete add-on that sparked outrage. These places prove even history's elites had questionable taste, and that the line between brilliance and blunder is razor thin. Before we dive in, a quick favour. Most of you watch without hitting subscribe, and hey, we get it. But if you love epic castles and brutal honesty, that one click means everything. It's free for you and helps this channel grow. So, if you're into ruins, legends, and the occasional architectural disaster, hit subscribe. Now, back to the ugliness. Number 10. Caerphilly Castle, Wales. Wales is home to one of the most unintentionally crooked castles in Europe. Built in 1268, Caerphilly was once a showcase of medieval military innovation, with concentric rings of defence that set the standard for castle design. Centuries of conflict and neglect left their mark. The southeast tower, damaged during the English Civil War, now leans over 3 meters off vertical, earning it the nickname the Welsh Tower of Pisa. Unlike the charm of its Italian cousin, Caerphilly's tilt is more structural failure than picturesque decay. Victorian critics, fond of symmetry and order, found the castle's jagged, uneven silhouette jarring against the Welsh landscape. The scars of war clashed with their ideals, prompting harsh critiques of its appearance. Today, engineers blame uneven medieval foundations just as much as past explosives for the tilt. Preservationists face a tough call: stabilize the tower and lose its iconic lean, or let time keep working. Caerphilly's battered profile tells a story of resilience, but also reminds us that not every historic fortress lives up to its legend. And some, as we'll see next, miss the mark even more. Number 9. Brân Castle, Romania. Perched high in the Carpathian Mountains, this fortress is a masterclass in mismatched expectations. Built in 1377 as a customs post, its origins are far from the dark Gothic legend that draws tourists today. The big transformation came in the 1920s, when Queen Marie of Romania added towers and crenellations to match the Gothic revival trend. But these additions sit awkwardly on the original medieval base, creating a patchwork locals now call Lego architecture. Tourism marketing leans hard into the Dracula myth, selling a moody vampire stronghold. The reality? A boxy, functional building dressed up in theatrical flair. Many visitors leave underwhelmed, noting the disconnect between its reputation and its appearance. A castle caught between Gothic fantasy and government outpost. The result is a structure unsure of what it wants to be. Historians debate whether to strip it back to dignity or just embrace the kitsch. Either way, Bran Castle proves that bold architectural makeovers don't always lead to beauty. Sometimes they just give us a confused icon trying to wear too many hats. Number 8. Estagom Castle, Hungary. Hungary's oldest royal seat became one of its most controversial when a bold renovation collided with medieval bones. The original fortress, scarred but standing after centuries of invasions and even World War II, was dramatically altered in the early 2000s. Architects aimed to merge preserved Romanesque and Gothic ruins with modern elements, but the result left many scratching their heads. Visitors now walk mirrored catwalks slicing through crumbling arches, while steel beams jut across ancient brickwork like scaffolding that forgot to leave. Designers called it a dialogue between epochs, but critics heard architectural shouting. The sleek additions don't just contrast with the old, they compete with it, turning a historic monument into a fragmented timeline. Preservationists remain divided. Some hail it as visionary, others as vandalism in glass and chrome. The castle's legacy, once defined by survival, now includes a heated debate over whether progress and heritage can coexist. Estagom's transformation shows what happens when modern ambition outweighs historical sensitivity. Number 7. Hetstein, Belgium. On the banks of the Scheldt River, one of Antwerp's oldest landmarks became one of its most divisive. In the early 2000s, a stark modern addition was bolted onto the medieval bones of Hetstein, a concrete visitor centre that juts out like a grey slab glued to centuries of history. Locals were furious. Dubbed a shipping container crash-landed on a castle, the extension sparked online outrage and tens of thousands of petition signatures. Critics slammed it for bulldozing visual harmony and turning a cherished monument into a design school experiment. Some called it Europe's ugliest renovation. Yet, amid the backlash, architectural circles applauded it, showering the project with awards for innovation, further fueling the divide between professional praise and public disdain. What was meant to be a bold reimagining became a cautionary tale. Instead of sparking conversation, the new addition overwhelmed the old, reminding us that context matters. Hetstein's makeover proves that when modern design ignores its setting, the results can be unforgettable, for all the wrong reasons. Number 6. Château de Pierrefonds, France. In the 1850s, architect Eugène Viollet-le-Duc set out to resurrect a ruined 14th century fortress for Napoleon III. But instead of faithful restoration, Pierrefonds became a theatrical reimagining of what a medieval castle should look like. Left in ruins since the 1600s, the original structure had scars and gaps. Viollet-le-Duc filled them with fantasy, turrets, gargoyles, and grand courtyards that had never existed. His philosophy was to restore a complete state which may never have existed at any given moment. The result? A picture-perfect castle that feels more like set design than history. The towers are flawless. The stonework gleams. There's no sign of battle, weather, or time. Critics say it's less medieval fortress, more 3D historical fanfiction. Tourists love the drama, but historians wince at how much truth was smoothed away. Pierrefonds proves that restoration can rewrite legacy. When imagination replaces evidence, you risk turning heritage into illusion. It may be beautiful, but it's also a reminder that too much polish can erase the past entirely. Number 5. Brân Castle, Hungary. Perched above the Danube, Budapest's former royal palace is a striking example of how politics can reshape a landmark's identity. Once celebrated for its Baroque grandeur, it was drastically altered after World War II. Under the communist regime, ornate Habsburg details were stripped away and replaced with a boxy, utilitarian design reflecting Stalinist ideals. The result? A sterile white facade that feels more bureaucratic than regal. Photos from before the war tell a different story, rich with statues, flourishes, and imperial flair. The 1950s reconstruction erased that, trading splendor for function. Recent efforts to reintroduce Baroque elements, part of a re-Baroquification debate, have only muddied things further. Gilded trim now sits uneasily atop the plain socialist shell, dividing critics over whether it's restoration or confusion. Today, Brân Castle straddles eras awkwardly, a hybrid of lost monarchy and imposed ideology. It's a stark reminder that when architecture serves politics, soul often gets sacrificed. What once symbolized royal power now feels more like a monument to compromise and a cautionary tale in concrete. Number 4. Osaka Castle, Japan. Rising above Osaka's skyline, this iconic fortress is less samurai stronghold and more modern compromise. After multiple fires destroyed the original 16th century wooden keep, engineers in 1931 rebuilt it using reinforced concrete. A decision shaped by Japan's seismic threats, not aesthetics. While durable, the result often draws comparisons to a theme park replica, with its bright green copper roofs and smooth exterior, evoking a department store in cosplay. Inside, the illusion breaks further. Escalators hum beneath fluorescent lights, museum exhibits line concrete walls, and vending machines greet visitors en route to the observation deck. Critics call it a Disneyland castle, where practicality triumphed over authenticity. Preservationists remain split. Some defend it as a relic of early modern engineering. Others argue for a return to its wooden roots. Either way, Osaka Castle straddles the line between history and convenience, sturdy but emotionally flat. It raises the uncomfortable question, when we rebuild the past for the future, do we preserve its soul or just its silhouette? Number 3. Château de Shambour, France. Few castles embody excess like Shambour, the 16th century hunting lodge commissioned by Francis I. With 440 rooms, 84 staircases, and a roof bristling with chimneys, it feels less like a retreat and more like an architectural experiment spiraling out of control. Blending medieval towers with Renaissance ornamentation, its style is a visual tug-of-war, where Gothic spires wrestle with classical symmetry in a design that never quite settles. Its most famous feature, the double helix staircase, possibly influenced by Leonardo da Vinci, is a marvel of design, but even that feels adrift within the chaotic layout. Rooms connect illogically, hallways lead nowhere, and the whole structure seems like the result of unchecked ambition rather than coherent planning. Historians have called it a monument of excess, and it's easy to see why. Shambour dazzles at first glance, but confounds on closer inspection. Is it visionary or simply overindulgent? Maybe both. Either way, it proves that when a king has endless funds and no filter, the result is less a castle and more a fever dream in stone. Number 2. Uchisar Castle, Turkey. High above Cappadocia's dreamlike landscape stands a fortress that looks more like a geological accident than a royal residence. Uchisar Castle, carved into a volcanic rock spire in the 6th century, has been called everything from otherworldly to plain ugly. One visitor described it as a crumbling termite mound, a nickname hard to unsee once it's mentioned. Unlike traditional castles, Uchisar wasn't built. It was hollowed out. Erosion shaped the base, and humans expanded it with tunnels and chambers for shelter and defense. The result is a rugged, pockmarked mass that prioritizes function over form. There are no towers, battlements, or decorative facades, just a jagged peak riddled with openings. Guidebooks call it an acquired taste, and for good reason. The dim interiors and asymmetrical structure feel more cave than castle, appealing to some and bewildering to others. Still, it's a powerful reminder that castles weren't always about grandeur. They were about survival. Uchisar's strange beauty lies in its raw authenticity, even if it doesn't belong on a postcard. Number 1. Stirling Castle, Scotland. Few castles have stirred as much modern controversy as the vivid makeover of this Scottish landmark. In the 1990s, conservationists made a bold move, coating Stirling Castle's Great Hall in bright yellow limewash, based on research showing medieval buildings were often plastered in colourful Harling render. Historically accurate? Yes. Visually jarring? Absolutely. The mustard yellow facade clashed with the surrounding grey stone, prompting public outcry and headlines branding it a giant mustard stain on history. Locals and tourists alike questioned whether authenticity should come at such a glaring aesthetic cost. What was meant to evoke the castle's Renaissance heyday, instead, left some comparing it to a Renaissance fair backdrop. The debate still simmers. Should restorations prioritise historical truth or the expectations of modern eyes? For some, the Great Hall's colour revives forgotten vibrancy. For others, it's an unwelcome disruption to a solemn icon. Stirling's makeover reminds us that even evidence-based restoration can divide opinion, and that sometimes the hardest part of preserving history is deciding which version of the past to present. From mustard yellow halls to concrete-clad ruins, these castles prove that not every fortress ages with grace. Which one challenged your taste the most? Drop your pick in the comments, or name one we missed. If you enjoy honest takes on architecture and the strange beauty of imperfection, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Next time you picture a fairy tale chateau, remember, not all castles were built for storybooks. Some were built for the blooper reel.